Hello and welcome to our first Saxony Tech Talk. My name is Sibylle Köhler and I represent Saxony Trade and Invest. Saxony Trade and Invest is the business promotion agency of the federal state of Saxony, which is located in the eastern part of Germany and home to several industrial players and also small and medium-sized companies and startups. In our Tech Talks, we would like to give you an update on current economic issues and topics from our region and also give you some insights in disruptive innovations made by companies from Saxony. And exactly this is what today's Tech Talk will be about. So our guests are Markus Henke and Carsten Schumann, the CEO and the CCO of PowerON. And PowerON is about to solve one of the biggest challenges within robotics, which is to make robots feel. So welcome, Markus and Carsten.
Hi.
Nice to have you here today. And let me start with a look into the distant future. In an ideal world where your technology is fully implemented, how will that world look like?
Well, if we have a look to science fiction movies, we can see that most science fiction movies suggested that robots were initially invented to make our life easier and support us everywhere. And in the midterm or far future where our technology is fully implemented in robotic systems, we will enable robots to support us not only at work, in the factories and in the production, they will also support us at home and in our spare time, for instance. They can cook us dinner, serve us tea and coffee, or clean up at home. And that's not possible today, and that's what we are working on.
So this type of innovation or even disruption, can it be compared to the time when mobile phones were equipped with touch sensors and suddenly actually became smartphones?
I think one could think so. So we had, or all of us had mobile phones before we had smartphones, right? And today we see robots spread out through industry, and robots are widely used in industry already. And if we compare the soft tactile sensation technology that we work on with the touch screen, then yes, the addition of tactile sensation to robotic system will make robots safely interact with us and helps that robots can support us in our everyday life and will somehow unleash robotic systems from their fenced environments in the factories. So yes, I think someone could compare the addition of tactile sensitivity and soft materials to robotic systems like the addition of a touch screen to mobile phones.
So why do we need this paradigm shift in the development of robotic equipment?
There are a lot of reasons for that. Most importantly, currently we have a huge worldwide shortage on skilled labor, meaning there are just not enough people for all the manual work we have to do. And industry is searching for ways to automate more processes that are currently not possible to automate because robots just can't handle those tasks. This is one reason where our technology will help. And also we need systems that collaborate with us in a safe way if we want to have robots as supportive devices in our everyday life. So we have to come away from a design paradigm where engineers use materials like steel, metal, carbon reinforced plastics, and such stiff things, or powerful actuators. It's all good for industry. But for close collaboration, we have to rethink or redesign how we build up robots. And we believe in a future where we use bio-inspired soft structures in order to build up robots. So soft actuators, soft tactile surfaces, and soft materials to make them really safely interact with us.
So the foundation of your innovation are so-called dielectric elastomers. These are multifunctional materials, as far as I understood your explanations. Could you explain them a bit more in a few sentences?
Yes, so dielectric elastomers are a platform technology, and it's a soft multifunctional material, meaning it can act as different parts of equipment. So dielectric elastomers consist of soft silicone and carbon used as conductive material. And we print those structures in layers, and we can produce artificial muscles, for instance. That was the first application of dielectric elastomer. But in the recent years, we also developed a lot of soft sensor solutions and even structures that we call artificial neurons that give a certain amount of intelligence to the material. And that's the point where it really gets interesting and bio-inspired.
Okay, so you are actually making robots feel, and with that, you are aiming to break down the barriers between humans and machines, or humans and robots. What exactly is the secret behind?
The secret is multifunctionality of the platform technology we work on. So robot always consists of the structure itself. It consists of actuators like motors, hinges. It consists of sensors to detect the environment, and it consists of systems for signal processing. And if we want to build an entirely soft autonomous system that can safely collaborate with us, we have to replace all the required parts by soft parts. And our platform technology can actually do that. So we can print soft artificial muscles that make soft structures move. We can print tactilely sensitive skins that can detect touch at the surfaces. And we can print the so-called artificial neurons that interconnect everything and add a certain amount of intelligence to the material. And we can mold the entire structure of soft materials. So in the end, it's our goal to, with our technology, to develop structures that are built up a little bit more like we humans are built up, and not as we design robots for industry. Right now. We are not yet there, of course, but theoretically we can do that. We have shown that everything works in our laboratories. But currently, our first products are in the area of tactile sensation for robotic gripping, because we recognize the strongest market pull in that direction.
Okay. So what can the dielectric elastomers actually be used for?
Oh, that's a tricky question. It can do a lot. So it was invented as actuators, and the first researchers working in the area, they believed that the artificial muscle actuators will be all around us within 10 or 15 years. That didn't work out to a lot of reasons, but there are applications in the area of actuators. We think that it would be possible to print soft pumps for medicine, for instance. But in our case, we see the first real applications in the area of sensation. But it's not only about robotics, that the sensors could also be used for medical products to detect pressure directly at our body, to detect if an orthesis or a prosthetic device sits in the right position if there's too much pressure. It could be used as soft human-machine interface for tactile communication with a system, as tracking device for loads in logistics and basically everywhere where forces or loads have to be tracked with a soft interface.
Very interesting. One question to you, Carsten. As CCO, you are the one who's, of course, or I guess you are very much talking to potential users or customers. Do you meet any reservations when talking to them, or are they mentioning any market barriers?
In fact, we are generating exactly the opposite fact when we are talking or introducing the technology to people, to potential customers. It's a completely new technology, and everybody I speak to is really fascinated and keen on learning more about it. And every time I have been on an event, on a trade show, I come back with more potential ideas what we actually can manage to proceed. So the biggest issue we have right now is to keep our focus on the first product we want to develop. And the target is that by end of next year, we want to roll out our first products. But I mean, then we think that we will have the normal issues or barriers that everybody faces who's rolling out new products. You have to convince really the buyers, the person to talk to. You have to convince that your product is reliable. You have to prove that you have an excellent after-sales service. So this is something we need to do. This is the normal legwork a salesperson has to do. But on the technology as such, this is really great to introducing it to people, and everybody seems to be fascinated.
Okay. There have been dielectric devices in the past, right? But there has never been a real breakthrough. So what's different with your technology?
There are several reasons in our opinion. So the technology itself has been investigated in research for nearly 2 decades now. First applications, as I mentioned, were in the area of actuation, and there was the first startup I know tried to produce force feedback devices for mobile phones to make mobile phones, to give them a better way to give us feedback with vibration. And the market didn't want it at that time. And now the new generation of mobile phones, I know from the iPhone, they have a motion or more, a vibration device that basically does something very similar. And I think they were just too early. And they only focused on actuators. And we think a little bit further. So we start with the sensation, but then we want to add the actuation and the signal processing in order to exploit the entire multifunctionality of the technology in order to create really new groundbreaking devices that haven't been possible so far. And the entire problem of skilled labor shortage that only raised within the last years, and that wasn't present about 15 years ago. So we think we are at the right time with the right products to enter the market.
Okay, well, that was a very good transfer to my next question. You mentioned many ways to apply your DEs or your dielectric elastomers, and you also have created a roadmap on how you want to move your technology into the market. Which application do you want to start with, and who will be your potential customers?
So we, from talking to customers, we see that there's a pressing need in automating processes that are done manually so far. So millions of tasks in industry are done by humans because we do not have robots that can do it, because robots do not feel what they touch. So I do not even have to look to take that glass, but a robot couldn't do it because there's a lack of tactile feedback. And there's a huge market pull because a lot of companies do not find enough people for the manual work. And so we know that there's a huge potential in the market to automate processes with our, supported by our tactile sensation technology. And from there, where we start to introduce the products into the market. And from there, we will work on larger area skins for safety, as a safety feature for collaborative robotic structures, and as communication device to communicate with a robot via different tactile gestures. And then we will introduce the artificial muscles to make the system move in a bio-inspired way. And later on, we will also introduce the artificial neurons to add the multifunctional or the intelligence to the material. So we go stepwise, starting from a pressing need in the market, and then we add more and more features as we go.
Okay. And which devices or applications is touch detect suitable for?
Well, there are many possible applications. As I mentioned earlier, we're getting a lot of ideas from customers. And as Markus just pointed out, we start right now with a typical gripping or handling applications where the users have a lot of benefits. One benefit, for instance, is that with touch detect, the end user is able to handle soft or brittle objects, like in the food sector, you can handle rolls, you can handle eggs, you can handle apples. Another application is that in the industry, you have the trend that the variations are getting bigger and bigger. That means producing companies, they do need a lot of exchange equipment. And with integrating touch detect into a gripper finger, we are able to reduce the number of exchange parts. So that in the end will increase the machine availability because you do not need to change equipment.
Okay. So as far as I understood your product or your technology, partnerships with other technology suppliers are crucial. So do you already have some examples on cooperations?
In fact, we are speaking with a lot of different companies, with different type of companies. It's important to understand that we do not just want to offer some components. We want to solve problems, and that's why we want to offer a complete solution. And the complete solution, if you think of gripping objects, consists of the gripper fingers combined with our sensors. You need a gripping system, and you need a software or artificial intelligence behind it. And you also you will need a robot or cobot. So what our intention is that with the exact problem a customer has, we can supply the right type of sensor or gripper combinations, and we can also supply a software or a software platform that solves the problem of the customer.
And currently we are working with companies here in Dresden in order to kick off our first proof of concepts at their site. So we will soon see our sensors in the first customer facilities, and we'll work together with the customer to automate processes that weren't possible to automate so far. And we will sign the first contract for the proof of concept studies by the end of this year, which is pretty exciting. And for us, it's pretty amazing that we have interested partners who really believe that the technology can add a huge value to them, that they are right here in Dresden, and we can just go there and work with them hands-on without spending ages in a train.
That sounds great. I will definitely ask you some more questions later on about why you chose Dresden as a business location, but I think this might be one of the answers. But back to the cooperations and partnerships, what would be the main benefit for example, a gripper manufacturer to cooperate with you?
As Markus pointed out earlier, there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of unsolved problems, and with our technologies, we enable gripper manufacturers or even robotic companies or even machine builders and integrators to explore their business even further, because with integrating touch detect, we open up new possibilities in terms of interacting between the robot and human being, and between robot and soft and brittle objects.
Yeah, I think if we talk about the gripper manufacturers, for instance, they already sell a lot of grippers. And by adding the feature of tactile sensitivity to their grippers, we offer them a possibility to basically multiply their revenue, because suddenly they can access a lot of markets they couldn't access before. And basically every task in industry that is done manually so far, because robots can't do it due to the lack of tactile sensitivity, is a potential use case. And if we see how many people do work in industry in manual jobs, how many people do work in agri-tech, how many people work in the front end of stores, all that are potential use cases. And this is a lot of potential revenue for us and the gripper companies. And that's only one side. Then we, as Carsten mentioned, we have the local partners who have problems at their facilities where we can also help.
Okay, so the technology offers a broad variety of possible applications, especially when it comes to the use of robotic equipment in the future. Can you say something more about the target applications or industries you see most potential for right now?
You named already a couple of industries, like the normal production industries, household, agri-tech, medical industry. And I think as long as robotic is involved, then the likelihood is high, yeah, that our technology can be used for several applications, like gripping, like interaction between the robot and the human being.
Yeah. Maybe to use some examples here so that people can imagine it a little bit better. One application, for instance, in industry is working with rubber. We were told that by a gripper manufacturer. We didn't expect that, but robots are not able to handle rubber parts, because rubber parts are soft and they behave a little bit differently all the time. So taking out rubber parts of injection molds, all done manually. There are production steps in the tire manufacturing, done manually. And there are millions of tasks. Then we have automation in laboratories. In our hospitals, most of the work in the laboratories is done manually, because robots can't handle the glass test tubes. So the applications go from hospitals and laboratories over agri-tech to rubber parts. Yeah, everywhere where our human hand is a good tool, that's potentially something where we can help with automation.
Okay. And besides robotics, do you see other opportunities for your sensing technologies?
Yeah, sure. So several application fields. It's possible to integrate the touch detect into control units of machinery, even of robots. And by integrating them in a robot, you can combine the control to even to safety features. There are really a lot of applications out there just waiting.
Okay. So Markus, you also mentioned hospitals. So will this healthcare sector be a potential market for you as well?
Oh, absolutely. We see already now potential applications in, as I mentioned, lab automation, but there's way more in the medtech sector, starting from tactile sensitivity for medical products like orthesis or prothesis, detecting if there's too much pressure at the limbs. That is an application. In the far future, we believe that robots will become more an assistive device for nursery to make the job of nurses less stressful and tiring. And for that, we need a safe human-machine collaboration, because having a robot working with a patient, that requires a lot of safety measures, and we see there a huge potential for our soft materials and soft multifunctional robotics.
Okay. So your first applications will be in the area of tactile sensation for robotic gripping. How do you plan to reach your vision from here?
Yes, so we start in the industry sector by giving conventional robotic grippers the ability to feel what they grip and therefore access new markets. It's basically like retrofitting the tactile sense to existing grippers and then making them available to new applications. From there, we plan to release large area tactile skins for collaborative robotics as safety feature, but also as communication device to basically talk to the robot by touching it. And then we will introduce the artificial muscles and then the artificial neurons in order to create entirely soft autonomous robotics.
Okay. So what companies would you like to partner with, or what kind of partnerships are you looking for?
Right now, we are looking for companies that are willing to cooperate with us to test out our technologies. So we are looking for companies that open up for the technologies, which there are, but they need to have the right environments. Because with the new technology, it doesn't make sense to step right into production. So we're looking for companies that are also able to invest time, because development needs time. And ideally here in the region, because we need to learn a lot about the market, what the customers in the end really want and really expect from our product. So therefore, it would be great to find local companies here in the region for the next future.
So basically, we search for partners or companies who have a pressing automation problem that was or where the task was so far done by humans, and the lack of humans. So we want to help you to automate your manually done tasks by giving you the robotic grippers that can basically handle everything that we can with our hands.
That sounds good. Thank you very much for your explanations. I have one more question. I have been a bit curious because I read that PowerON was founded in 2019 in New Zealand, in Auckland. And in 2020, you decided to open an office in Dresden. Can you just give some short sentences about the company history? And you already mentioned some points before, but why did you choose Dresden as your business location to grow your European business from?
Yeah, okay. That dates back to 2015. After finishing my PhD here at the University in Dresden, I decided that it's time to see something else. And I went to the University of Auckland in New Zealand to the Biomimetrics lab to do research in the area of soft robotics, artificial muscles, and basically the scientific foundation of what we now will release as products. And there I got to know the rest of our founders team, and it was a really interesting work. And after I returned to Germany, we stayed in close contact. And in 2018, we decided that it's time for the next big adventure. And we were offered the entire IP portfolio by the University of Auckland, and we founded a company in Auckland. And we also attracted the Exist startup grant by the German government in order to build the company here in Germany. And so we founded two companies, one in New Zealand and a subsidiary here in Dresden. And since that time, we grow. By now we are about 17 people from
9 nationalities.
9 nationalities split over 2 continents that couldn't be further away of each other. So it's quite special, but it's really great. And we have the team in New Zealand, which is really skilled in the fundamental development of new materials and new sensor designs. And here in Germany, we can collaborate with the big players in the market. We have the machine builders here, we have the gripper manufacturers here, we have the automotive industry here, who does have problems in their facilities with handling tasks, where we might help them soon. And that's why we decided to have our, or that it's good to have a subsidiary here in Germany. And Dresden was really a logic location for us, because Dresden is really famous already for the entire semiconductor industry, which is also kind of sensing industry. And we also see more and more robotic startups growing in the area of Dresden and Saxony. And we think that it's great to be here, because we have a very vibrant microcosmos in the area of robotics. We have a very good network here. There are a lot of very interesting events that we can attend, and it's just, it's a place to be for a robotic startup.
That sounds great. So there is, in fact, an upcoming robotics ecosystem here in Saxony. How do you experience the exchange and the networking between the robotics society or robotics community here?
We get a lot of support by the networks. So we have the Robot Rally Saxony initiative, where we can always go to and ask for ideas who to talk to. We know a lot of the robotics startup executives here in Dresden personally. We go for lunch with other robotics startup execs, and it's just we have a lot of nice events where we can showcase our technology, where industry is invited to see the new solutions provided by startups and so on, and that's all made possible by the robotics network here. And that's great.
That sounds great. I'm very excited to follow your way in the future. And thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and sharing your plans. And if you have any questions to Markus and Carsten, please feel free to post them in the comment section on the LinkedIn page or on the page of the LinkedIn event. We got a question by the audience already, but there's one question that also came to my mind while we were speaking. You described your vision of a soft robotic future. Do you have any demonstrator or prototype already?
Our engineers, they have created a very, from my point of view, a very impressive demonstrator, and we have a video of that. Can we get the video? Okay, good. I guess in our background there will be soon a video of our comprehensive technology demonstrator that showcases the ability of the technology to create a system where artificial muscles, artificial neurons, and tactile skins collaborate with a soft robotic structure. And that is definitely not a product for industry or any application, but it should spark the imagination of people to come up with ideas for what we can do in the future.
Great. Great. Well, there's one question, and the question is: a major obstacle in the practical use of dielectric elastomers. Dielectric elastomer actuators is the high voltage. The problem here is more the expensive electronics than the high voltage itself, apart from legal regulations. Do you see a solution for this problem to lower the voltage so that this principle can be used widely?
In fact, we do, but to answer that question, I would start a little bit differently, because our first products are in the area of tactile sensation, and that is all low voltage, so we do not require high voltage for that. But indeed, the actuation part in the mid or long-term future will require higher voltage, and the electronics, that is true, are quite expensive and complicated. But by our technology, we can also produce these so-called artificial neurons that do a certain amount of signal processing together with the muscles. So we also have a pathway to a future where we do not rely on so many expensive high voltage components. We can do a lot of the signal processing and the reflexive triggering of the muscles in the soft structure itself, and we only require silicone and carbon for that. So I've seen the question is from Metin from Festo. Thanks for the question. That is definitely a good one. So we are working on that, but for the short term, this is not an issue, because we do not require the high voltage for sensing.
Okay, thank you. Another question: with the market potential you are facing in the future, do you see any, or what are the challenges to ramp up a production?
Here in Dresden, one challenge would be finding the right place to set up a production line. But luckily, the city of Dresden is currently building the technology center. They built 2 additional buildings there. And the technology center is a great facility where a lot of startups have their laboratories and offices. A vibrant community is already there, and we were able to secure one area there where we can set up our production line, and we hope that this will last for the next couple of years. The beauty about the technology, as we mentioned, is that we can use printing technologies that are well known for their high throughput. So we are quite confident. Thanks. We are quite confident that we can supply the market as it is required in the future.
Okay. During the registration process, I also got some questions to you, and one of them is, in which market do you see the biggest potential?
I think we see the biggest market in the private sector, and we believe that robots will become the next smartphones. And I mean, that's probably the reason why really big players like Meta, Google, Tesla are also researching in the technology of humanoid robots and robotics. And I believe that Goldman Sachs just recently announced that they expect that the market for humanoid robots will be approximately 150 billion euros within the next 10-15 years.
One more question is, what are your main USPs, especially also regarding to potential competitors that might exist?
There are a few. So in my opinion, the most exciting one is that the structures we produce are fully soft and flexible, which makes them a great human-machine interface for collaboration. This is already a major USP for the sensing applications, and for the entire vision in the future, the the main USP of the technology is that we can use the same materials, production technologies, and patterns to produce all the components a future system will need.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience, for answering all the questions. I will check there are no more questions in the comment section. So also to the audience, thank you for staying with us. And if you have any questions to either us from Saxony Trade and Invest, or of course to the guys from PowerON, please feel free to contact us or them also directly via using the networking function on LinkedIn. And thank you for being with us today. And if you are already doing business in Saxony and have an interesting story to tell, so we are also happy if you contact us, and maybe you will be the guest of our next Tech Talk.
I think there's another question.
There is a last question. Great. Okay, the question is, couldn't it be faster and cheaper to find a mass manufacturing partner or combine the needed capabilities and long-term know-how of different manufacturing partners instead of building up an own production?
Yes, this is definitely an option. Currently, we are in the stage of working on smaller batches together with pilot customers in order to do POCs. There's still a lot of product development going on, so we basically adapt the designs a little bit and print smaller batches to try it. But of course, later on, if we have a final design for a kind of sensor that needs to be printed 1 million times a year, then of course we will contact, for instance, you, Markus. There are a few Markus here on LinkedIn, in order to find somebody who has great experience in printed electronics, because that will help us later on if we talk about millions of units per year to scale the production without the need of building even more technology centers here in Dresden.
We really wish you good luck with your further way into the future. And once again, thank you also to our audience, and see you at our next Tech Talk.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.